Welcome back to Gruber Motor Company. Today we have a special video highlighting the 25th anniversary of General Motors' first mass-marketed electric vehicle, the EV1. 25 years ago, the EV1 launch was a media event attended by celebs, dignitaries, and business leaders. And EV1 even made an appearance at a Sly Stallone movie premiere. The decision to mass produce this car sparked from public interest in their 1990 Impact electric concept car. So the EV1 was set for production years later. But let's discuss a little more backstory. The Impact cars were being developed by an electric vehicle company, AeroVironment, which got their design knowledge from the Sun Racer, a solar-powered vehicle. They then brought in Alan Caccione, co-founder of AC Propulsion Systems, who designed and built the original drive system and electronics for the Impact. Alan would later go on to create 3 revolutionary electric sports cars labeled the T0 by early 1997. I happen to own and drive one, which you can check out the history video we created in the description below. Anyway, the design in these Impact concept cars was 32 lead-acid rechargeable batteries, similar to what Al Caccione placed into T0, which actually only had 28 lead-acid batteries. Being a viable design, and with GM intending to produce an initial 5,000 Impact vehicles, the California Air Resources Board, or CARB, made a mandate to have GM and other car manufacturers convert 2% of its fleet to be emissions-free by 1998. The board stated that this mandate was set to help with California's poor air quality, which was at that time the worst in the country. Now, there were some myths, and one of them is that GM's EV program was started due to CARB mandates. The truth is that GM was already figuring out how to produce a practical electric car, and CARB decided to force all the other auto manufacturers to follow. In a recent conversation with Martin Eberhard, the co-founder of Tesla, he mentioned that the GM EV1 had a direct lineage to the Tesla Roadster through the AC Propulsion T0. Therefore, it could be concluded that Tesla received some of its inspiration from the framework placed in the EV1. 1994 marked the first time that GM began releasing these Impact vehicles to drivers under an agreement that they log their experiences. Initially, they expected maybe 80 or so phone calls in the greater Los Angeles area, but were forced to close the phone lines after 10,000 people called in. There were 3 locations that these vehicles were released: California, Phoenix, and Tucson. In a quote from Motor Trend magazine, "The Impact is precisely one of those occasions where GM proves beyond any doubt that it knows how to build fantastic automobiles. This is the world's only electric vehicle that drives like a real car." Automobile magazine even called the car's ride and handling amazing, praising its smooth delivery of power. That year in 1994, a modified Impact concept car set a land speed record for production electric cars, reaching 183 miles per hour. To give you some perspective, even the original Tesla Roadster's top speed was set to 125 miles per hour due to a couple of things. The original Borg-Warner 2-speed transmission was unable to handle the torque and was burning up clutches, so they had to resort to a single-speed transmission. And because of aerodynamics, the front end would actually have lifted at any speeds higher than 125 miles per hour. Martin Eberhard also mentioned that speed was deliberately kept to 125 miles an hour because aerodynamic testing that would have been involved was too expensive at the time. Most auto fans would see this Impact as a major accomplishment. GM apparently did not. According to the New York Times article, they were less than pleased with having developed a successful electric car. According to New York Times, General Motors is preparing to put its Electric Vehicle Act on the road and planning for a flop. With pride and pessimism, the company, the furthest along of the big three in designing a mass-market electric car, says that in the face of California law that requires 2% of cars to be zero-emission beginning in 1997, it has done its best, but that the vehicle has come up short. Now it hopes that lawmakers and regulators will agree with it and postpone or scrap this deadline. GM viewed the project as a failure and found it was not yet viable to mass-produce electric cars and keep up with the CARB regulations. Perhaps the automaker didn't want to give up their multi-billion-dollar investment in internal combustion engine technology. No business can be told how many of something it must sell, since no sales mandate can and will force the public to buy something that they simply don't want. But do we really think that was the case with this electric vehicle? Despite GM feeling the impact concept electric vehicle was unsuccessful, a couple years later, by 1996, they started the designs for the first generation EV1, which would be GM's first electric car to be honored with an official nameplate and badging. By 1999, GM released their second generation EV1 with major improvements, including a lower production cost and the advent of a new battery, nickel metal hydride, instead of lead acid. This now gave the cars a range of 100 to 140 miles versus the first generation EV1s of only 80 to 100 miles. In March of 2000, GM issued a recall on 450 Gen 1 EV1s and determined the cause was faulty charge port cables, which was attributed to at least 16 thermal events. Despite happy owners, in 2003, General Motors began to recall these EV1s. Roughly 40 were donated to museums and educational institutions, and some of these survived, but the vast majority that were retrieved from owners were sent to car crushers to be destroyed, without the owners initially being aware that this was where the car was destined to end up. Peter Lafford, a professor at Arizona State University, recently shared some video footage with us showing the GM proving grounds here in Mesa, Arizona, where these EV1s went to be crushed. Since then, a high school has been built on this property, and as a tribute, there is a mural in the cafeteria of this high school depicting the crushed EV1s. To conclude, we may be able to consider the General Motors EV1 not only an engineering marvel for its day, but perhaps the car that helped with the ultimate spark in engineering designs that would later become the foundation for electric vehicles we have come to love and appreciate. Thank you for watching another inspiring and informational video on the history of electric vehicles. I'm Pete Gruber. Make sure to comment, subscribe, and hit that like button. We have more exciting content coming your way. Thank you.